what is the significance of fixed income securities in the context of business valuation? First of all, uh, fixed income security, as the name suggests, a security on which the subscriber or the holder of the security is going to receive a fixed income, and that is why they are referred as fixed income securities. Fixed income securities are also referred as bond. And why the fixed income securities are also referred by as bond? Because there is a contract between the issuer of the fixed income security and the subscriber of the fixed income security. And what is that bond? That bond is a contract whereby the issuer of the fixed income security undertakes certain obligations. What obligations? Prominent one. One is to service the fixed income security by paying interest on that security from time to time, and number two, also to repay it, also to repay the income security as and when the maturity date arrives. And that is the reason why fixed income securities are also referred as bond, because that's a contract between the fixed income security subscriber and the issuer. Now the question is, what is so great about fixed income securities that they are part of the course curriculum on valuation exam of IBBI? Why it is so important? Why the fixed income securities are so important? And friends, uh, we need to remember that globally, as far as the stock market is concerned, the size of the stock market globally is about $70 trillion, about $70 trillion, whereas the size of the debt securities is more than $100 trillion. So typically one would have thought that the stock market is bigger than the debt market, but that is not so. Debt market is much bigger than the stock market, and if the size of the debt market is more than $100 trillion, we can imagine what kind of the transactions, the size of the transaction that must be undergoing in the debt market. And therefore obviously, if one has to deal in debt securities, or one has to deal in fixed income security, and if one's business is to deal in fixed income security, that means there are people, wealth managers, mutual funds, and private equity fund, and venture capital fund, and the government treasuries and treasuries of different companies. So they are constantly dealing in the fixed income securities. That means they have to take decisions on the fixed income securities, whether to invest or not to invest, whether to divest or not to divest. And if all that has to be done, obviously the understanding of the fixed income securities has to be very, very good, because only when your understanding about the fixed income securities is very, very good, you will be able to take decisions on the investment or disinvestment of your money, of your wealth into different securities. And that is the reason as to why do we have the this fixed income securities as part of our course curriculum. Now, what I intend to do, I intend to cover in next 3 hours various aspects of fixed income securities, so as to get a good handle on it. Various aspects of fixed income securities, and when I say fixed income securities, it also implies bond. As we have understood, fixed income securities are also referred as bond. So when I say bond or when I say fixed income security, please remember I am referring to the same thing. So what I intend to do in next 3 hours is to understand various aspects of fixed income securities, so that we are able to do the evaluation of fixed income securities, so that we are able to take decisions about fixed income securities when we become a professional valuer. But even before we become the professional valuer, we have to pass this exam. And my idea is to share whatever little I know with you, in a way so that you are able to use this knowledge and understanding in passing the exam also. So we will be discussing about the fixed income securities, and then we would also be covering some part of the derivatives, particularly the embedded derivative. So this is the plan that we have. Now, if we have to understand fixed income securities, what we need to understand is the key terms used in fixed income securities. Obviously, friends, I can tell you this: finance has got business has got its own language. Business has got its own language, and finance is the language of business. And within finance, the debt market and the derivatives, they have their own language. And so if one has to really get a good handle on derivatives, if one has to get a very good handle on the debt market, then one has to be aware with the language of the derivatives or the language of the debt market. And for that, what we need to do, first we need to understand the key terms used in fixed income securities. And the key term is, number one is the face value, and all of us are aware as to what face value is. Then you have a coupon, or which is also known as interest. So coupon rate or interest rate are the same things. And the coupon, remember, in case of a fixed income security, can be fixed or it can be floating, and it can be even zero. So there are certain fixed income securities where there is no coupon. And why there is no coupon? Because these fixed income securities are issued at a discount. And since they are issued at a discount, a question can come to your mind as to how the subscriber will gain. So the fixed income security or the bond will be issued at a discount. Let's say, for example, the face value of the bond is 10,000 rupees, and it is issued at a discount of 5%. So the subscriber is going to pay 95,000 rupees to get this bond at the time of subscription. He will not get any interest unless the duration is 1 year. He will not get any interest on this bond, but at the time of redemption, what he will get, he will get the full amount, that is 10,000. So what is going to be his return? His return is going to be 10,000 minus 9,500 that he must have paid at the time of subscription. So his return is 5,000 on an investment of 9,500. So coupon rate interest is, which can be fixed and floating, and it can also be zero. Issue price, of course, we understand what is issue price. Then there is a coupon frequency, periodicity of coupon payment. So in case if a bond is a coupon bond, that means it is a bond on which the subscriber is going to pay a certain amount of interest. Then there is a periodicity, and that periodicity can be quarterly, half yearly, or it can be annually, depending on the terms of a particular fixed income security or a particular bond. The periodicity can vary as to how it has been agreed between the subscriber and the issuer. Then it has got a maturity date. That means a bond will normally a bond will have a maturity date, and that is the date on which this bond will be redeemed. It will have a tenure, and that is the life of the life of the bond, and it can be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, or whatever it will. Then fixed income securities can be secured or unsecured. So when I say secured, that means the issuer has allowed or mortgaged his assets for securing the fixed income security. And these bonds or these fixed income securities can also be unsecured. And we all understand as to what is the meaning of secured and unsecured. Then there is a nominal yield. And what is nominal yield? Nominal yield is the price that you pay for purchasing a bond and the rate of interest. So the rate of interest divided by the price at which you purchase that bond is your nominal yield. And then you have a current yield. So what is current yield? Current yield is the coupon rate divided by the current market price of that bond, and that becomes current yield. So the rate of dividend, rate of interest divided by the current market price of that bond, and that becomes your current yield. Then you have indenture. And what is indenture? It is nothing but a contract for the issuance of the fixed income securities. And this indenture is a contract, and this indenture will include all the terms and conditions relating to that particular fixed income security. So what are the obligations of the issuer? What are his rights? What are the obligations of the subscriber, and what are his rights? And every other term and condition pertaining to the fixed income security will also be included in the indenture. So that's a very, very important document as far as the fixed income securities are concerned. Then in the context of fixed income securities, we also need to understand call option and put option. And why we need to understand call option and put option? We need to understand call option and put option because a bond can be puttable, a bond can be callable. What is the meaning of bond being callable? The meaning of bond being callable is if a bond is issued with a call option, that means the issuer of the bond at any point in time after a specified date can decide to redeem the bond even before the maturity of that bond, and that is a callable bond. That means the issuer of the bond has an option to call, and that means to pay and redeem the bond and finish it and close it. A question that can come to your mind is why should somebody do this? Why should a subscriber, why should a issuer call a bond and redeem it before its maturity? Remember, the interest rate in the market is the function of the market forces. So interest rate in any economy, let alone India, interest rates in any economy are always fluctuating. They are always up and down depending on how the economy is doing. So it can happen that at the time of the issue, when the issuer came out with the fixed income security, when the issuer issued the fixed income security or the bond, at that time the rate of interest was 10%, and the issuer had the requirement of funds, and therefore he issued the bond at the rate of 10%. Subsequent to the issuance of the bond, what has happened? And after the expiry of a specified period, the interest rate in the market have come down. Let's say they have now the issuer is able to issue fresh set of bonds where he would be able to offer a rate of interest which is 8%. So it makes sense for the issuer to exercise the call option on the bond, call the earlier bond, redeem them, and instead of that issue a new set of bonds where the rate of interest is going to be 8%. So a callable bond gives an opportunity to the issuer to take the benefit of lowering of the interest rates in the market, and that is why a bond can be callable bond. But whether a bond is callable or puttable or both, it will be known well in advance to the issuer as well as to the subscriber. Likewise, a bond can be issued with a put option. That means a puttable bond. And what is the meaning of puttable bond? Puttable bond means the bond has a put option in favor of the subscriber. That means what? That means subscriber, in case if he so wishes, after a specified date, can decide to surrender the bond and get his money back. And I am sure again a question can come to your mind as to why should a subscriber do that? And it can happen, as I said in the earlier example, it can happen that instead of the interest rates in the economy going down, now they have gone up, and the subscriber is holding this bond on which he is getting an interest at the rate of 8%. Since the interest rates in the market have gone high, and that means now he has an opportunity to subscribe to a new bond on which he would be able to get an interest rate of 8-10%. So it makes sense for him to exercise his put option, surrender the bond, get his money, and instead of earning 8% on the existing bond, he can go for a new set of bond on which he is going to earn a rate of interest of 10%. So this is how we need to understand the call option and put option. So call option, as we all know, is an option where the holder of the option has the right to buy, and in case of put option, he has the right to sell. And then you have a maturity and redemption value. So maturity, redemption value means what? Means at the time of redemption or at the time of maturity, the amount that will be paid by the issuer to the subscriber, and that is known as redemption value or the maturity value. Then you have a yield, and you also have yield to maturity. Now friends, this is what we need to understand very, very clearly, because YTM is a very important term, and more often than not I have seen people tend to confuse YTM with the return that you will get on a particular bond. It is not so. We need to understand YTM in much wider perspective, and I'm sure once you do that, then the understanding about the bonds and the fixed income securities becomes very easy. You know what is YTM? It is yield to maturity. Now, what is the meaning of yield to maturity? The meaning of yield to maturity is if I, as the subscriber of a fixed income security, or I, as a subscriber of a bond, uh, and holder of that bond, I am going to receive a certain cash flow, and that those cash flows will comprise of two components. Number one, the interest that I would receive over the tenure, over the remaining tenure till the maturity, and the redemption value that I will receive on maturity. Now, this is what is my cash flow on this bond, and obviously, as I have the cash flow, I also have the outflow. And what is the outflow? Outflow is the amount that I have paid at the time of purchase of this bond. So what is yield? Yield, friends, is the rate at which yield is the rate at which, if the cash flows on the bond are converted in terms of present value, then the present value of the cash flows, cash inflows on the bond will be equal to the purchase price that I have paid for buying this bond, and that is your YTM. So if you pay attention and think about it, I am sure you will be able to understand very clearly that YTM is nothing but it is something like your internal rate of return. So when you are doing a project evaluation, when you are trying to evaluate a project, when you are taking decision on capital expenditure or investment planning for your company, for your business, for your client, whether you should accept a project, you should not accept a project, what you would do, you will calculate a rate which is known as IRR, internal rate of return. And what is internal rate of return? I am sure if you will recollect, you will realize internal rate of return is nothing but it is the rate at which, if the future cash flows are discounted, then the present value of all the future cash flows on this project will be equal to the outflow on the project that you are incurring. So, and if you try and compare what I explained to you about the YTM and what I have explained to you about the internal rate of return, you can very clearly see that both the things are same, and they are really same. So in case if you have to calculate YTM, and in case you have to calculate YTM, what you need to do, you need to use the same formula as you use for calculating the IRR. Now, how do you take decision in case of project planning and project investment and capital expenditure planning? आप क्या करते हैं? आप कंपेयर करते हैं. किस चीज़ को कंपेयर करते हैं? आप कंपेयर करते हैं the IRR of the project with your benchmark rate. So obviously you as a company would have set a fixed benchmark that I will accept a project only if that project is giving me an IRR which is higher than my benchmark rate. What is your benchmark rate? Your benchmark rate is nothing but your cost of capital. तो आप क्या करेंगे? आप IRR को compare करेंगे with your benchmark rate. So if the project IRR is 17% and your benchmark rate is 15%, what will you do? You will accept the project, isn't it? Because जो आपकी cost of capital है, जो आपकी benchmark rate है, वो 15% है, लेकिन the project is giving you an IRR of 17%. Therefore, the project is giving you an IRR which is higher than your benchmark rate. That means this project is giving you a return which is much higher than your expected rate of return, and therefore you will accept it. Same way YTM is also used. So as a company, as an investment fund, as a mutual fund, or as a pension fund, or as any other fund across the globe that you have, when you are taking decision about investing your funds into a particular bond, this is what you will do. What you will do, you will calculate YTM. So in case if you're planning to invest in a particular bond, you will calculate the YTM. And how will you calculate the YTM? You will calculate the YTM in the same way as you will calculate the IRR. So आप क्या करेंगे? आप उस बॉन्ड का जो YTM है वो कैलकुलेट करेंगे, और लेट्स से आपने YTM कैलकुलेट किया और आपको मालूम पड़ा कि ये बॉन्ड अगर आप इस बॉन्ड में अगर आप इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो योर YTM इज गोइंग टू बी लेट्स से 9%. And then what you will do, you will compare this YTM of 9% with your cost of funds. Obviously, as a fund, whether pension fund or wealth fund or any other fund for that matter, mutual fund or any wealth management company, what you will do, you obviously will have a cost of capital. So जो funds आपके पास में है उसकी एक cost होगी. So what you will see, you will find out as to what is my cost of capital, and let's say your cost of capital is 8%. And let's say for example, the YTM of this bond is 10%. What will you do? You will simply close your eyes and invest in this bond. Why? Because the YTM of this bond is 10%. Your cost of capital is 8%, and therefore this bond is giving you in real value terms a return which is 2% higher than your cost of capital, and this is how you will take a decision and make investment in this particular bond. Vice versa, if the YTM of this bond is coming 7%, your cost of capital is 8%, what will you do? You will simply shun to make investment in this particular bond. And that, my friends, is YTM, yield to maturity. Simple words में क्या है? Simple words में ये है कि if I was to hold a bond till its maturity, what return I'm going to get in terms of present value? In terms of present value. That means YTM is the rate at which, if you discount the cash flows of that bond, the present value of those cash flows will be equal to the amount of investment that you are making in that bond. Then you have something called dirty price and something called clean price. And I'm sure when you hear this term, and I'm sure you must have heard about it many times before, because since you are appearing for this training program of 50 hours, I'm sure some amount of reading you must have done on this valuation exam, so you must have come across. So you have a dirty price and you have a clean price. So what is clean price? Clean price is when you are purchasing a bond, and whatever the price that at which you have done the transaction, now that is what you have to pay to the seller of the bond. And what is dirty price? And what you pay to the seller in this case is known as clean price. So जो भी आपने price जो आपने decide करी है वो आप pay करेंगे, and that is your clean price. Dirty price is not only you pay the clean price, but you also pay interest. Interest for the period, that is last date of payment of interest to the date of purchase. You will pay interest of this period which is accrued. So you will pay, the payment that you will make for purchase of this bond is going to be equal to the clean price plus the interest for the period that is already accrued. Interest period that is already accrued. And when you combine them together, that is known as dirty price. Say for example, आपने जो price पे आपने bond खरीदना है, let's say that is 90 rupees, and you not only have to pay 90 rupees in any case, but the last interest payment date, for example, was 31st December. That means the seller of this bond would have received the interest on this bond on 31st December. And let us say that the interest payment periodicity is quarterly. So आपने 31st December को उसको interest मिल गया होगा, बात खत्म हो गई. 1st January से लेके आज तारीख है 30 जनवरी, सो 30 दिन का आपको इंटरेस्ट उसको पे करना पड़ेगा टुगेदर विथ 90 rupees. So when you pay the clean price, that is 90 rupees plus the interest for the period which is accrued since the last interest payment date, that will be your dirty price. Invariably, I'm sure you would notice that generally there is a question as to what is dirty price, and I'm sure you can feel that this is quite a low-lying fruit, and you can answer it very easily. And then of course, when you talk in terms of bonds and fixed income securities, then we all know it very well, priority in payment. So bond or the fixed income security is a debt instrument, and that will always have a priority over the equity in case if the company goes for liquidation. So friends, this is the summary of the key terms which are used in fixed income securities. There are many terms which are used in case of fixed income securities or in case of debt market or in case of bonds, but these are the prime ones, and I'm sure as we keep on discussing, we will keep on touching some more terms also.